You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Jaxson Dart just did something I didn't think was going to happen. It was amazing. I walked out of that game with my jaw on the floor, and I've seen him for 3 years put my jaw on the floor. But he went out in the absolute perfect way. We'll go over what he did and what it stands for, and we'll also look at what else happened in this ball game, as well as taking your comments. It's just really, really cool. Hello, I'm Stephen Willis, the host of the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, a 10-year veteran member of the national media with Yahoo Sports, and a former Ole Miss staff member. I hope everybody enjoyed that 52-20 demolition of the Duke Blue Devils that somehow felt worse than the blowout that it was. But we'll see exactly how it goes. You know, the NFL playoffs are almost here, and it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, because right now new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Jaxson Dart had an absolutely iconic game in the Gator Bowl. And we had a month to, in our head, figure out what the stories were going to be about this game. We had a month to figure out exactly what we wanted to see. We had those conversations. You watched the show. It's like, hey, it'd be really nice to see Austin Simmons. It'd be really nice to do this, to do that. And then Jaxson Dart did what he always does. And that is completely just defy our expectations and take them to the next level. Jaxson Dart ended that game with over 12,000 total offense yards, which is an SEC, puts him fourth in the SEC all time, passing Dak Prescott in that game. In the game, Jaxson Dart became the all-time single-season passing leader, passing Chad Kelly. In that game, he became the single-season total offense leader. Jaxson Dart is now the leader in single-game passing and total offense, single-season passing and total offense, and career passing and total offense. Literally the only major record that Eli Manning still can claim is the touchdown record. He gets to keep that. Everything else pretty much out there is Jaxson Dart's. Jaxson Dart has cemented his place on the Mount Rushmore quarterbacks at Ole Miss all time. Whether you want to put him one or not, that's completely up to you. Whether you want to put him 2, 3, 4, I will not hear you dropping him probably at 4 or 5. There's probably no list where Jaxson Dart is not in the top 3 quarterbacks in Ole Miss history. Some people will say he's number 1. Some people will say the Mannings are still in that lofty spot. But Jaxson Dart, this season, statistically, has done everything that needed to be done. Man, if Ole Miss could have made that field goal against Kentucky, because if you look at the playoffs, they're going into the semifinals now and everything. If you just look at the playoffs as they sit right now, there's no way that Ole Miss was not belonging of that final spot over in SMU. And SMU was the target. If you heard Lane Kiffin in this game in his interviews, he kept pointing out, we're playing the top defense in the ACC. We're doing this against an ACC defense. Obviously a shot at the fact that the ACC got 2 teams in. Obviously a shot that the ACC got SMU in. That is what tonight was about. That is why it was running up. Now, the last touchdown that Jaxson Dart threw on his last pass to Jordan Watkins, that was not called by Lane Kiffin. That was something that was audible at the line of scrimmage. And Jackson and Jordan did that on their own per Lane Kiffin. That doesn't change the fact that looking up the scoreboard and seeing a 50 burger, that probably made Lane Kiffin smile, because now he gets to talk for the next 8 months about how the committee did him wrong. And he can honestly say that we belonged to be there. We belonged in the playoff. We were the best team that got left out. It wasn't Alabama. It wasn't Miami. It wasn't South Carolina. None of those could finish the deal with whatever menial bowl that they had to go to. Ole Miss destroyed their opponent. They put 52 points on a defense that didn't opt out. That was the Duke defense. That was the one that was a 9-win defense over the course of the season. Their quarterback did some good things, and they were completely overmatched on the other side of the ball. But hey, I was told about hypothetical matchups, it matters the results on the field. I was told that that mattered. And Ole Miss proved in this Gator Bowl everything. They proved that they probably should have been given more consideration for the college football playoff than they were. They lost to Kentucky. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. They lost on the road at Florida. Yeah, can't really blame somebody for losing in the swamp. They lost in overtime to LSU. Yeah, that happens. And you're going to look back and you kind of put yourself in this position. That doesn't change the fact that the criteria for the college football playoff is the best 12 teams, minus of conference champions and the G5 and all of this extra stuff where they put their thumb on the scales. They showed tonight in the Gator Bowl, Jaxson Dart's dream finale, an absolute super finale. Ole Miss belonged in that discussion more than they were. See, the way this worked and the way this happened, and everybody in the Ole Miss stands were chanting SEC at the end of the game. No, stop it. Do not chant SEC. It's not worth it, because the SEC fought to raise Alabama up to the point where they tried to get them in at the last possible section at the expense of Ole Miss. They talked about South Carolina. It was Alabama and South Carolina that dominated the discussion. That is why Lane Kiffin had to use his platform to get any notice at all. And Lane Kiffin was right. Looking at the results of the playoff and everything else, Lane Kiffin was absolutely right. And that kind of is what it is. Anyway, when we come back, we will look at the stats and the game story, what's going on. And then the third segment, we are going to take your comments. So post where you're writing from and all of that stuff. You guys know the drill. We will talk to you in just a second. The NFL playoffs are almost here, and it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel. That's America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many different ways for you to pick up a W. I love betting on which player will score a touchdown or how many points each team will score. It is thrilling. Ole Miss covered their 17.5-point favorite that they had over Duke. Easily covered. They almost doubled it up. So just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, so we're going to real quick talk about the stats and everything that happened in this game, because honestly, it's pretty cool to look at what happened. And we're going to do it a little bit differently today because of the day that Jaxson Dart had. Jaxson Dart had an absolutely phenomenal day. He deserves his flower. We're going to do the individual stats second today. We normally do them first. So that's why we're doing that. So stand by. We'll see exactly how that goes. It's a game where Ole Miss had 27 first downs, Duke for 17, 18 through the air for Ole Miss, 9 on the ground. Ole Miss actually ran the ball pretty well today, by the way, which was kind of good. And Ulysses Bentley had a decent day. We'll talk about that in a second. Ole Miss did not necessarily get penalized that much. Their third down efficiency was 6 for 11 against the best defense in the ACC. Duke was 6 of 17, by the way. They did all right for Henry Beal the fourth. They did a better job on offense than I thought they would. Fourth down efficiency, Ole Miss was 1 of 2, including the worst fake field goal that I potentially have ever seen. So we have that going for us. Duke was 2 of 5. Duke had 280 yards of total offense. Ole Miss 588. Ole Miss had 69 plays. Duke had 68. The average gain, Ole Miss got 8 yards per play, 150 yards rushing on 32 carries, averaging 4.7 yards per rush. If you want to look at passing, Ole Miss had 438 yards passing. Duke had 236. Ole Miss was 28 of 37, 11.8 yards per pass. They were sacked 3 times for 21 yards. They did throw an interception, but that interception was Caden Davis, and they had 2-point punts in the game. Only 6 penalties for the Ole Miss Rebels in this football game. So, looking at the individual stats in this game, Jaxson Dart ended up 27 of 35, 404 yards and 4 touchdowns. Yes, you heard that correctly. 404 yards in the bowl game. Austin Simmons was 1-1 for 34 yards. He actually let one rip at the very end of the game. That was very interesting to see. He just has such a smooth throwing motion. Ulysses Bentley, the fourth, 14 carries for 70 yards. Jaxson Dart was 11 for 42. Logan Diggs had 1 carry for 15 yards, but he looked like whenever he has explosion moving forward, he's going to be an all right fit at the running back room. He looked like he flashed just enough to where Ole Miss fans, Ole Miss might need only 1 running back in the transfer portal because it looks like Logan Diggs is going to be that guy. Juice Wells, 2 rushes for 8 yards. Jason Albritton, 1 for 7. JJ Pegues, 1 for 7. Austin Acton, 1 for 1. And Dominic Thomas, 1 for 0. Receiving, Jordan Watkins had 7 catches, 180 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Daquan Wright, 3 catches, 73 yards, an unbelievable grab on a touchdown catch as well. Long of 30, had a 1 touchdown grab. Caden Lee was 8 for 57, did all the dirty work out of the slot. Jordan Smart, he caught the last pass of the game from Austin Simmons. Juice Wells had a 32-yard touchdown with perhaps the greatest celebration that I can remember after a touchdown. Ulysses Bentley, a weapon out of the backfield, 4 catches for 30 yards. Caden Prescorn had 3 for 26. Logan Diggs had 1 for 6. Caden Davis was 1 for 1 on field goals. He should be 2 for 2, and 6 of 6 on extra points. Mike Baker added an extra point as well. Frazier Messine, 2 punts for 52 yards. You want to look at Duke. Duke was led by Henry Belen, 25 completions on 44 attempts, 236 yards. He could throw 1 route really, really well, and he took advantage of that. Duke could not run the football at all. Receiving, they were okay. It's a situation where they're going to be all right. It's like I said, this game was probably more of a blowout than the score even indicates. Ole Miss fans should be happy with what they saw, with what Jaxson Dart put in on tape. And whenever we come back, just after this, we're going to deal with your comments on this show. The show is going to double as Friday's podcast. So it will be the 30-minute show in the morning, the blue label, the whole 9 yards. It'll be the 7 o'clock in the morning show or whatever, even though it is live now. It's going to be this show. I have Tim Thomas scheduled to be interviewed for Saturday morning, and I've got Tom Vanderford talking about this Gator Bowl for Sunday morning. So stick around for that. As soon as we come back, we will get to your comments. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions that you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? It definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions I didn't even realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. You know how these subscription services are. They just want you to forget about it, and they can just keep getting that money every single month. But this is like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spendings, and help lowers your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 or 500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 per year when using all of the app's premium features. For me, it's one of the best features is the subscription tracker. I've used it to cancel services I was not using anymore. I've already saved a ton. And plus, with their goals feature, I've been able to automatically set aside money for the future. No more stressing out about budgeting every month. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That is rocketmoney.com/lockedon, rocketmoney.com/lockedon. All right, so let's get into your comments just a little bit. I enjoyed that game. That game was absolutely special. And like I said, I watched it, and my expectations of what I wanted to see in that game and what I wanted to see done just completely went away with every pinpoint pass by Jaxson Dart. It was seeing greatness one last time. Not even mad that Austin Simmons only got one series at the end of the game because of how good Jaxson was. Players like William Eccles and Cam Franklin and those guys, they got to play in the game. They did. I did not see Aiden Williams in this game. And we'll talk about that, I'm sure, in a little bit. But we'll see exactly how it goes. All right. I might go just a little bit longer than 30 minutes tonight so we can get to some more comments because it's the last football games of the season. So need to celebrate it, make it last as long as humanly possible. Matthew Mitchell says, hotty toddy and congrats, Dart. Donna Taylor, why couldn't ESPN let us see the trophy presentations? Did they not do that? I was so busy working on the podcast that I must have missed that. So, yeah, that's pretty terrible that they didn't because they do that on most everybody else. They can barely stomach airing a blowout by Ole Miss. Narratives. Adam Alves says, so does that put a nail in the coffin for Aiden? I do not know because my expectations right now is kind of all over the place. I don't know that it can be good. You know, I don't know if this is a good thing for Aiden. And us not seeing Aiden Williams, several players rumored, this is it was reported on message boards and all of that, of players getting sent home for missing curfew. I don't know if Aiden was one of those guys. I don't know if Nareel White was one of those guys, those players that we didn't see. I don't know exactly where it sits. So, yeah, we'll have to find out what's going on. Donna Taylor, Michael Roberts, if it had been any other older than Ole Miss, they would have shown the trophy presentation. You're probably right. Bark Walsh says, great game. Way to end it. Love the beatdown. Hope we have another solid defense next year. Yeah, and the real question is, the rumor is that Ole Miss is going to be up towards the front of the line for Ben Bell, potentially. They look pretty good for Ben Bell. But there is no Walter Nolan replacement in the transfer portal right now. And Walter Nolan made this defense so different than it has been in the past. And I will be interested because it's William Eccles, it is Xavier Harris, it is Jam Brown. Those guys, that interior defensive line is going to be so important for Ole Miss in 2025, potentially. They played a lot this year. I think they're going to be really important next year as well. James York, that last pass play from Simmons ought to tell you a lot. That kid is so good. Honestly, I actually believe Lane and everything is like he wanted to take Jaxson out, but Jaxson Dart refused to go out in the game. And Jaxson was so hot and doing everything so well. It just made sense that he would stay in the ball game. And he did. It was one pinpoint pass after another. You know, the touchdown pass to Daquan Wright by Jaxson Dart, I was sitting there going, it's like, that is the best pass he has thrown in his Ole Miss career. He literally, if you'd have handed him the ball 30 yards downfield, that's what it would have looked like. It was such a perfect pass. Any variance in it, it was going to be incomplete. It was amazing. I was like, there it is. That is your swan song. That is your perfect pass. And then in the second half, there is a 50-yard bomb to Jordan Watkins rolling out left that was absolutely breathtaking as a pass. It was one of those moments that was like, wow, that may have just changed my world. And seriously, I'm joking. It's like that opened up more doors mentally for you to me at the next level. Now I'm going to be paying attention to Senior Bowl practices to see if you can make those steps, because you looked fantastic tonight, dude. Absolutely amazing. Luke Shaw got some work to do on the defense. Defense was bored after they completely shut down the Duke offense for the first 20 minutes of the half. They were bored the rest of the night. Joseph L. Pounders, great game. Would have liked to seen Austin Simmons more, but all in all, great game. Yeah. The only way I would be okay with only seeing one pass and Austin Simmons only playing just a little bit was for Jaxson to have the type night that he had. The honestly, it's not legacy night. It is almost like the icing on the cake type night that he had. That first go for it fake field goal was really bad. It's the worst fake field goal that I've ever seen. And it made me think that Ole Miss was about to play this like a 9-year-old playing Madden again, like they did against Texas Tech in 2022. Luckily, Ole Miss was so good that didn't matter. But yeah, that concerned me. It genuinely did. Let's see. Michael Roberts, I wish we could go back and play all three of our losses tonight. Yeah. You want to talk about missed opportunities? It's not 4th and 25. The gold standard right now is this team. This Ole Miss team was potentially the best football team in the entire Southeastern Conference. And somehow they let a team that went Ole Miss in 8 or Ole Miss in 7 in the SEC and Kentucky win. They lost a game to Florida, which, there's really no fault in losing in the swamp, but they called games in such a way that was not winning football. I always say all the time, analytics are the old English word for bad football. That's what it is. And 3 games, Ole Miss lost, 1-score games that the outcome was likely determined by analytics. And trying to score a touchdown when a field goal is perfectly fine. Kind of is what it is. I'm almost convinced they're intentionally hiding Simmons from us as to not lift our expectations too high for next year like it was this year. I think Simmons will be really good. I don't think they're worried about Ole Miss next year hitting this year's expectations, and I don't think they're worried about fans hitting this year's expectations. Me, I'm the ultimate homer. I mean, it's in my Twitter profile. But even I'm telling you, this 2025 team is not this 2024 team. Now, this 2025 team can make the playoffs. They can go on a run. They can get hot. They can win games. They can go 10-2 and end up in the playoffs. Yeah, absolutely, that could happen. But talent-wise, roster to roster, it doesn't necessarily match up. If anything, I think the 2026 roster is what they're building to be the next 2024 roster. I think Ole Miss is going to make a run at the playoffs in 2025, but they should be a favorite for the playoffs in 2026, if that makes sense at all. Zachary Turbot, announcers were hating on us the whole game. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Everybody has enjoyed, especially outside the SEC, hating on the SEC to the point where they need Ohio State to beat Texas in the worst way. So the national championship game is Ohio State versus Notre Dame. That's what they need, because that makes their lives a lot easier. But Ole Miss completely outclassed their opponent and deserved all of their plaudits tonight. Williams says, I firmly believe we beat all the teams that we lost to tonight, home and away, neutral site. Also, how about those freshman defensive linemen? They're going to be good. They're going to be really good. William Eccles, Cam Franklin, Xavier Harris, Jam Brown, those guys, they're going to play a lot and they're going to be really good. Remember, in the All-Star game where Suntarine Perkins made a name for himself in the Mississippi-Alabama game, Alabama could not do anything in that game when Jam Brown and Suntarine Perkins were on the field at the same time. When they were off the field, they were able to move the ball. But just those two players was able to kind of control things. Clifton Harris, Jaxson Dart played good, but I'm not sure why he played the whole game. Really wanted to see Simmons early. I'm with you. But I don't think it would almost be like pulling a pitcher in a no-hitter with what Jaxson Dart was doing tonight, with this being his farewell, this being his last college game, this being everything. I can't, now that it's happened, I can't hold it against Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin and all that for not getting Austin Simmons in quicker. Now, they went and talked to Jaxson Dart, and Jaxson Dart said, no, I want to play, but we'll see exactly what happened. Dennis says SMU beat Duke by 1 in overtime. Absolutely. Dennis says, how is Bama ranked over Ole Miss? And this is the one that gets my ire up. Okay. SMU, Ole Miss, yes. Ole Miss should have been over SMU, but Ole Miss had to get past Alabama to be in consideration for the playoffs. Before their metrics could matter, they had to get past Alabama. And Ole Miss was never going to get past Alabama because Alabama is the golden child of the freaking SEC. Alabama was not a good team this year. They weren't. They lost 4 games, including their ReliaQuest Bowl, to a Michigan team that was just okay. To where if you had a semblance of a quarterback that was able to throw the ball, you were going to win that game. That was going to happen. But Michigan found a way to get the win because Alabama just wasn't that good. David Gibson says Georgia was a better team than Notre Dame, but they're not in the final. Georgia had a quarterback that was starting for the first time. And Notre Dame's defense took advantage of that and what they were doing. And LSU and Georgia's left tackle, as Ole Miss found out with Princely and Mamiella and just abusing that offensive line, was pretty awful and put everything kind of at risk. Clifton Harris says, was I the only one super upset that fake kick play in the first quarter? No, everybody was super upset about that. Trust me. Cameron says Dart's draft stock definitely rose tonight, and if he shows out in the Senior Bowl and Combine, he'll be a top 3 quarterback in the draft. Yeah, he did. Playing in the game paid off for him in a way that it didn't for Matt Corral in that Sugar Bowl when Matt Corral got injured. Jaxson Dart playing in the Gator Bowl has just elevated him to another level, and now he's at the point where the Senior Bowl can be everything for him. See, we're going to take a few more questions on here. Williams says, yeah, that field goal was bad. I think my 7th grade football team could have done better. It was awful. William also said Austin is going to be special. Willis says you got to figure out the O-line issues. Can't have right tackle problems next year. This is Willis. You're on it, buddy. You're on it. And I'm going to tell you why you're on it. Duke being a pressure team, a tackle for loss team. You saw what kind of pressure they put on the backfield quarterback. You finding out if you had a right-handed or right tackle on your team. Now, you didn't have Jaden Williams because he had to have a procedure. So it was Diego Pounds on the left. You need to see if Julius Buelow or whoever is that right tackle, and going against a pressure defense with a left-handed quarterback, it would have made a little bit more sense. Not doing it was weird. That is one reason I would have liked to have seen Austin Simmons. Does Juice Wells changing to number 7 mean anything for his future as a Reb? I do not think so. That's what I say. I know they used a lot of him, and if they would have used Juice Wells this way earlier in the season instead of just chucking 30-yard bombs to him, Ole Miss would have probably been better off offensively, honestly. Blake Jolly says O-line and defensive backfield have to be addressed. Well, yes. NS, are we ever going to hear anything about Deion Smith? Would have been exactly what we needed with Harris going down in those games. I'm not going to talk about Deion Smith until he is on campus at this point. Until then, he's basically turned into Ronte Langs. In my mind. I got burned last year. I don't want to get burned in the future. David Gibson, the problem with O-line and cornerback, there's no great options in the portal. I think the Tacario Davis, I think that's his name, out of Arizona. He's in the portal. Ole Miss is trying to get him on a visit. There's not a lot of tackles right now available in the portal. Sure, Ole Miss should evaluate at a very good clip, but it kind of is what it is. See. Luke Shaw says we got some good freshmen coming in and portal additions. And yeah, the portal's about to really kick off over the next couple of days. I got a text message about Ben Bell looking pretty good at the moment and how much he enjoyed that. Dennis says Mel Kiper having Dart the 7th best quarterback in the draft is disrespectful. Miss players always getting overlooked. I think that's about right. Jackson struggled a little bit in the season. In the middle of the year, he had a couple of games that were weird, that were a little bit off. Now, him going through the combine and him going through the Senior Bowl, he has a chance to be the number 1 quarterback taken off the board. But it's on him at that point. At this point, he's at a position to where he's at least within striking distance. Diggs looked really strong. This is Charles Vaught. Hottie damn toddy. Yes, that is one really cool thing. I said going into this, people wanted to see if Logan Diggs had flashes of what he could be in the future because he was not a finished product at this point. He showed somebody that could run the ball. He showed somebody that had decent vision. He showed like a top shelf running back that Ole Miss honestly has not had all season, at least vision wise, catching the ball out of the backfield. He was wearing the knee brace in the game. He was not wearing it in pregame, but he wore it in the game. And Logan Diggs, he got blown up on a blocking assignment. I saw that in pass pro, and his reps dwindled after that. But Logan Diggs has a chance to be something for Ole Miss moving forward. Let's see. Roy LaBella says, we attended the 91 Gator Bowl. A lot different outcome this time. Yeah, I made a comment on X that, oh, this is what the TCU fans felt like in 2014. Charles C., now we got to wait a while to get to see more Simmons. He's got one good pass in with at least his very limited time. I like the fact that he got a snap off at the end. I did. Dennis says he can't forgive Kiffin. This team was so talented. I can't believe they didn't make the playoffs. Yeah, they're going to have to wear this forever, honestly. They're going to have to wear this forever. Kevin Foy says, we were better than Bama and South Carolina. On good days, we were the best in the conference. But out of 12 games, we had 4 terrible ones. And yes, the Mississippi State game was as bad as any. The best has to include inconsistency. Yeah. Sark and Kiffin have the same problem. And that is when plan A doesn't work, there doesn't seem to be a plan B. When plan A works, it looks fantastic. It's beautiful. But when plan A doesn't work, it doesn't seem to be a plan B. And whenever that happens, which is going to happen in these games against Southeastern Conference coaches that pretty well are good at their job, that's going to make that happen. Kiffin has to develop a plan B moving forward. Cooper Banks says, am I the only one who loved that little that we saw from Diggs? Yeah, that was awesome. It was good. Zachary Turbin need to play into the villain role now. Everyone versus Ole Miss. Yep. Miss Tracy Ivy on the board. I will miss you. We will continue to be an everydayer. Thank you, Miss Tracy. We will miss Jared greatly. He was an unbelievable steward of Ole Miss football, and I wish him nothing but the best at the next level. And please, whenever we do this again next year, just pop into the live stream. You're always welcome to do that. So we will miss you as well, Miss Tracy. Thank you. Trey Stedman says, and I quote at halftime, one of the commentators, impressive first half for the Ole Miss Rebels against a good Duke defense. Yes, it's a very good. It was the best defense in the ACC this year. They were pretty good. Connor Campbell, if we're going to do anything special next year, it has to start with better play calling. It would have beat Florida easily, but the fourth down play calling cost us that one. Yes, Lane Kiffin, his next step in development is taking the points. It's like I said, analytics are it is the old English word that means bad football. That is what analytics means right now. Everybody wants 7. Everybody wants a touchdown. You don't need a touchdown, especially when your defense is as good as it is. So it depends on how good the defense is, but we'll see exactly how it goes. All right. I'm just frustrated we didn't go to the playoff. We are a national contender and people hate Ole Miss doing well. I'm highly critical of our team from a loving place. Yes. NS says, who should we be looking for over the next week or so out of the portal? The name I'm hearing right now is Ben Bell, the defensive end out of Texas State. I think he got a prediction to Ole Miss today. So we'll see exactly how that goes. And then Ole Miss is trying to get a visit from Takario Davis. Those are the big one. All right. So we're going to stop this podcast right here. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. This has been a fantastic season with the instant overreaction. Remember, we are unbelievably elated or unbelievably deflated every single instant overreaction. That is the point of it. I hope everybody enjoyed it. We're going to try to do an instant overreaction later in January, starting with SEC basketball, because I do want to try and build up our basketball brand. We are a really good football brand. I would like to be a little bit better basketball brand. So I'm going to try and do that a little bit on Saturdays, and it's not going to be every game. I don't know if you're going to get an instant overreaction on a Wednesday night at 11 o'clock or something like that, or we'll see exactly how that goes. But we're going to try and grow that. This year is going to be weird for me because of my surgery that's going to be coming in April. But if everything goes right, it will grow. We're still trying to hit basically 4 million views on our YouTube channel in 3 years. Our anniversary is January 4th. It is tomorrow. So after tomorrow, we have to see if we hit 4 million views in 3 years. If not, we're going to hit it in the next couple of days. But it would be cool to hit that 4 million view mark in just 3 years. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. We will talk to you later. We're going to have Tim Thomas on Saturday. We're going to have Tom Vanderford on Sunday, and I'll be back with you on Monday on the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Take care, everybody. Hotty toddy.